WWE needs to be very careful. They need to be very careful right now not to alienate their fan base. Listen, ever since TKO made the purchase, let's be honest, things have gone downhill. But things were going downhill when Vince McMahon was in charge. You guys just want to pretend that it didn't happen. Vince McMahon's way of thinking was outdated. It's why when AEW hit the surface back in 2019, you felt a shift. All the WWE fans can pretend it didn't happen, but there was a shift. It was a new promotion with a television deal on the verge of obtaining bigger stars than TNA, and they were on WWE's radar. Unfortunately, Tony Khan got a little ahead of himself and got a little reckless with his thinking and didn't structure things properly or accordingly to at least stay at the heels of WWE. Because from like 2007, 8 to 2019, WWE was a snooze fest. And for some reason, WWE fans pretend it didn't happen. You guys were bored of John Cena winning. He was getting booed out the arenas. John Cena sucked chants all over the place. Now he's back to being everyone's darling. But the fan base was frustrated. Vince McMahon's way of thinking was antiquated. We know that. But for some reason, everyone wants Vince McMahon back. Because everyone's so fed up with TKO and their outrageous prices and just all the sponsorships inside of the ring that we've never seen before in WWE. You know, you watch a Raw or you watch a pay-per-view or PLE, whatever they call it now, the whole ring is just advertisements. Stuff that Vince McMahon didn't do. But let's not start crying for Vince McMahon to come back, because for a good 15 years, his way of thinking, along with the good old boys, it was boring. If you want to keep it real, NXT had more buzz. Back when they were in black and gold, they had more buzz and more hype and more intrigue than actual WWE programming. That's when Triple H was at his peak, if you ask me. Where it was like, wait a minute, the closest competitor to WWE is NXT within their own promotion. Vince McMahon probably felt a little heat coming from that because the fan base was starved for actual wrestling. We got tired of the fandangos and all the little gimmicky things we saw throughout the 80s and 90s. I go back to WrestleMania 3. So there's some history here. And I'm confident enough to just tell you, WWE programming, after they made the purchase and after they took the library, it went downhill. Ruthless Aggression era, awesome. I didn't watch much of it, but when I caught up to it, very good. But after that, it went downhill. You had Punk's pipe bomb, maybe a few other things scattered throughout the early 2010s, and then it was just trash. You can pretend it wasn't, but it was. And AEW was a breath of fresh air. But WWE has to be very careful, because now rumor has it that they're not going to keep the library on Peacock. What happens to all the historic footage? Everybody went crazy when McMahon purchased all the promotions back in 2001 and took the library. And WWE Network was the greatest things in sliced bread back in 2012. So we had access to all the promotions, and I loved it. Now there's rumors that it's going to be kaput. Now the old school wrestling fans, where do we go to get footage? That's why I was always against Vince buying out the competition and buying out the library. I wish there could have been more wrestling minds back in the early 2000s with large bank accounts who could have fought tooth and nail to obtain the library for people like me. Because now we're going to have to hopefully rely on YouTube. And it's just crazy. So Vince buys out the competition, buys out the library, and some 20 plus years later, Vince is gone. The library is about to go into obscurity, and we're left with what? WWE has to get back to the basics. Just because they have a great production team and some prominent names doesn't mean it ends with them. We saw what happened at Survivor Series. Survivor Series wasn't good. You stole the concept of War Games from NWA, WCW, and you've watered it down exponentially. It wasn't good. And I'm not some huge AEW guy. Quite honestly, I don't even watch AEW much these days. I was definitely on the bandwagon in 2019, 2020, 2021. When they got Punk, I felt it was probably a bad move. I didn't like the idea of signing a bunch of WWE guys, but that's what happens in this business. Wrestlers rotate through promotions. WWF stole all of AEW's talent back in the late 70s, early 80s. It's cyclical. Promotions sign wrestlers that we've seen before in other companies. But for some reason, AEW took a lot of heat. But I didn't like the idea of mixing Punk in with that group. I didn't like AEW's, size. All these guys were under 6 feet and 170 pounds soaking wet. So it was a tough watch, but the wrestling itself was entertaining. I don't love all the flips and all that stuff, but it was different programming than what we got accustomed to with WWE. But where's WWE in 2026? Where do they go? There's really no superstar. None. They have talent. We have the Jacob Fatus. We have the Roman Reigns, who's working on a limited schedule. We have the Cody Rhodes. There are names, but a lot of these guys are 40 years old. Where's the young guy that's going to take this company, to the stratosphere? It's not LA Knight. LA Knight's in his 40s, if not close to touching 40. Who's that 24-year-old, that Randy Orton guy? Who's that's going to take this company to the next level? All these championship belts and ticket prices through the moon and this and that and this. And it's just, I get it. They're larger than life, and that was what Vince McMahon wanted some 40 years ago. Totally understand it. And it's coming to fruition, but the product isn't good. It's just not. But we have people that are programmed. We have what they call sheep. All we know is just WWE. So we just support everything they do. And the only way to send a message is to avoid the product. Stop watching it. Stop attending these live events. Change will come, but it's up to the fans. The fans have to be the ones who say, you know what? This sucks. I'm not wasting my money on this. Again, great production. The telecast is always A1. Graphics, little drones flying around the arena, catching different angles. They win. They win the award for production. But the wrestling itself is meh. It's watered down. It's too much emphasis on the entertainment, the yeets and all this stuff. Yeet was a thing on Vine back in 2011, 2012, 2013. No one says yeet in 2025, but somehow they made it cool again. That's what Vince used to do. He used to always get these wrestlers and give them some outdated quotes and made it cool and marketed it accordingly. And the fans ate it up and bought the t-shirts and bought the merchandise. Great strategy, but it's up to the fans. The fans have to be the ones to call it out and really take a stance. Or else we're going to continue to get mediocre pay-per-views. We're going to continue to get mediocre wrestling. And then what? I'm highly disappointed to learn that the library may no longer be available on Peacock. ESPN might make the purchase. I don't know. But for us old school wrestling fans who want to, get a little taste of nostalgia, we have nowhere to go. We can only hope YouTube is the next step. Unpopular opinion, but the business as a whole is in need of a reset if we keep it honest with ourselves. Kayfabe has been dead for, 25, 30 years roughly. As soon as the internet became a thing, that just pretty much eliminated the surprise element of wrestling. When you would watch WWF programming and see a WCW guy pop up, or watch WCW and see a WWF guy, that's done. We know about things weeks, months in advance now. And they're proud of it, with shows on Netflix that show you what goes on behind the scenes in the gorilla position and wrestlers getting along and on camera, the heels cool with the faces. Kayfabe is gone, and we understand that. I'm surprised the business is still around and thriving, to be honest with you, with all the things kind of going, I guess, against its favor. Because that was the best part of wrestling, kayfabe, in my opinion. Suspending your belief. Thinking that everything you saw was real, and even if it looked fake, it felt good. Because it was just a community of wrestling fans that were either in the know or not, but you still enjoyed the product. Just the surprise element. Not knowing who was going to win. Not knowing who was going to show up at a pay-per-view. And it all died. And then again, we're in a time now where who's your next superstar? Who's your next John Cena? Who's your next Randy Orton? I don't know if they exist. So we're stuck watching a lot of 40-year-olds who are retiring early now. These guys aren't wrestling into their 50s and 60s anymore. Those Ric Flair, Hulk Hogan, Nick Bockwinkel days are done. Vern Gagne, guys aren't wrestling until they're near 70 years old. That's done. And I don't blame them. But there's nothing. What's keeping your intrigue watching WWE programming? Is it because you're programmed? Because it's just a generational thing? Why won't you accept other companies? We need healthy competition. We need AEW to stick around. We need TNA to last another 20 years. We need NWA to do their thing and MLW. We need them. Healthy competition is good for the business. Because you don't want another shit show like what we encountered from 2001 to 2019, where WWE was the only big name in town. But where does the business go? If TKO is in this business now and for the foreseeable future with these high ticket prices, and let's be honest, Triple H's booking hasn't been the best. I mean, where do we go? Because WWE faithful aren't going to go to AEW. So do you just bow out altogether? Just hang up your viewership of wrestling and just head into the sunset? I don't see any larger than life superstar on the horizon. They could be out there. I just don't see it. And I'm not in the know. I'm not an active wrestling guy checking the blogs and have inside sources. I don't do all that stuff anymore. I did that when I was a teenager. There could be somebody on the independent scene right now, just stardom written all over him. But everyone should celebrate having multiple companies right now, because everybody should be entitled to work and not have to fly overseas to like New Japan to get some type of contract. And even New Japan is kind of watered down now. So I don't know how the business is going to make it another 40, 50 years. Who knows? But right now, in my humble opinion, I just don't think it's good enough. AEW overdoes it. WWE doesn't do enough. And that's where I'm stuck. AEW initially tried to be WCW and a little Mid-South wrestling, and they got a little excessive with the blood, maybe a lot of bit excessive with the blood. They just do too much. WWE doesn't do enough. They kind of insult the intelligence of the fan. And by the time this video posts, John Cena is going to be headed into the sunset in retirement land, and I don't know who's next up. No one impresses me. Maybe there's someone out there. But again, the business just looks very grim, in my opinion.